Looking forward to having this chat for a very long time. We had Her Excellency speak at one of our events a couple of years ago when it was virtual, and I always wanted to meet her in person. So it's such an honor to have this and to share the stage and to have this conversation with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. It is a pleasure to be here. And thank you for the invitation. And congratulations for this event, to be able to hold it and have so much amazing people around the table and subject, very deep subject. And I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you. So we'll dive right into it. As a former ambassador, what would be some of your suggestions in how Canada can collaborate with African countries to gradually or to seek opportunities in economic diversification? And what practical steps can be taken to encourage more Canadian investment in Africa, emerging markets?
Well, diversification is very important for Canada now, as you know it with the recent situation. And you know that Canada intervened only on the mining sector in Africa, main subject, this mining sectors. And also, as ambassador, when I came, with a group of African ambassadors, we look forward for Canada to see other subjects like infrastructures, education, agriculture, to intervene in those sectors. But Canada released its first Africa-Canada strategy framework last month. That was its first strategy. And I think for that strategy to work, because we have a lot of strategy, EU-Africa strategy, China-Africa strategy, and we have many strategies, but for all those strategies to work, we need real and sincere dialogue on what Africa really wants and what Africa really is, because Africa is changing. Africa is changing, and when you take Africa as a one, then you do a mistake, because Africa is not one. There is so much diversity in Africa that you have to take each country, each reality, and each context. So you cannot approach Africa as just one country. Some people might even say that think that Africa is a country. It is a continent with so diverse culture and reality. For example, when you take Ivory Coast, in Ivory Coast you have 150 languages. 150 languages that goes with 150 different culture. And then you cannot tackle them, the issues on those community as just one fit all. So that is what is a bit of difficulties, even for what they will call the development of Africa, but I will call it the resistance of Africa. Because people will say, why Africa don't develop? We have done a lot, and Africa is not developing. Africa, to my thinking, Africa is not developing because what is bring doesn't fit our realities. So there is a kind of resistance of the penetration of what people think is best and good for Africa, and that is why we are not developing. And that development have to be internal development, because we have everything. We have the resources, we have human power, we have knowledge. Now you go on YouTube, you can find anything you want to do, you want to learn. So for my thinking and experience of what I have seen, the development should come from within, with our own reality, and not waiting for anybody, because nobody will come to save us. And because also everybody has his own problem, internal problem to solve.
Now, picking up on that, you did mention the diversity within Africa, which is very important for us to be cognizant of when dealing on any front. Now, you've been a strong advocate for decentralization of resources of leadership. Can you share your inspiration behind decentralization of leadership and also give us practical examples of how it has worked for you?
Decentralization of leadership. The way I understand leadership first, many people will think that to be a leader, you have to be educated, you have to be on the top, you have to be seen, you have to be heard. For me, the leaders are the women in the family, in Africa, especially in Africa. Because you can see those women in the agriculture area waking up every morning, going 4 a.m., going to the field, grow the food, come to cook it, feed their family, and take care of the children. So for me, those, you cannot call them micro or macro leaders. And because if that was not done, the family will not stand. Men are doing their role. So most of the time we also do a very big mistake between the role of women and men in society. In our society, it is complementary, especially when you come from agricultural, rural area, where what I said, I stated women there in their role, but you have men in their role that have to take care of a field, to dig, to dig the, comment on dit le champ en anglais, quand on dit le champ pour l'agriculture? The field. So they have to prepare the field for women to be able to put the seed. In our society, women dig and put the seed because they are the one that give birth. So they give birth to the land. So even in that activities, everybody has his own role. So you have to really contextualize what is leadership in the family, in the community, because it is complementary role. So if you don't understand that, you will come with your Occidental mindset and said, no, women should do this, men can do this. And what you bring conflict within the family. So that is what I call leadership. And when we grow up, we see our mothers doing all those activities so that we can go to school, so that we can grow consistently and attack the world. So for me, the first leaders are women in the household and our father figures in the household. So when you talk about decentralization of leadership, I want to understand more what you mean by that.
So in your work, you did mention that you do believe in the decentralization in Mali and in using that to empower local governments.
Yes, because I have been elected at the local level because I wanted to take care of my community at the local level. So being a woman in politics, why I went in politics first? Because I was in the social movement with my mother, that is a big figure of altermondialist social movement. And we were fighting, taking the street every day for not introducing GMO, for any question, social question that we have, we're taking the street. And I was like, I'm so tired of organizing those movements on the street, bringing people on the street. I want to go where you take the pen and change the things. And that is in politics. So that's why I left the altermondialist movement, and I went on politics to be elected, so that I get the pain, and I change the things on the paper, and that is where I wanted to be. And then I went up to the presidency as advisor to the president on those issues, and I was working at the presidency on governance, and I was happy with just a piece of paper and my computer to be able to work on major issue and change things. So from local, and then you see that from your local level to the municipality to the presidency of Mali, you can change things.
Yeah.
Yes.
And picking up on that, you and I talked about the importance of indigenous knowledges and systems and how that should be recognized in our everyday activities. Now, bringing it back in connection to economic development, you talked about how women take on that role within the community, and we shouldn't generalize it. We have to make sure we contextualize it at every point in time in the practicalities of everyday living. Now, my question is, within the indigenous knowledge systems of living in our everyday lives of knowing and doing, what would economic diversification look like in the life of an indigenous person in Mali?
Yes, when I was appointed ambassador, I saw that there is a lot of similarities between how indigenous people live here and our communities in the rural and sub-rural area. And I organized a dialogue between the Dogon people, autochthon Dogon people, and some indigenous community here to see what are their realities and how they evolve around centuries, and what is their relationship with the environment and economy. It was very interesting. While doing that exercise, those two communities started by greeting themselves in each cultural languages. They were from Mali, one from here, but they started greeting themselves, first of all, in their languages, saying hi, and it was the chiefs. And after we had some dialogue on how they used to live here and how they empower themselves by taking control over the land and the resources, and that was helped with the revendications they did to have law to help them to control their land and the economic system. And they create an economic system here, an ecosystem here, so that now they own enterprises, and also they supply enterprises that work on their settlement, their living, where they live, and so on. So they were saying to Malian people, it is possible to develop, and poverty is not a fatality. And this is what we can have a dialogue and an action plan so that we can show you how we did it. So they explained us that they had some research with universities, they had to work with companies, big companies. Mm-hmm. What you have to understand that our economy are not structured. And if you don't have any structured economy, any structured ecosystem, then for you to create like wealth and redistribute it is very difficult. But I will come again on one of the subjects that is very important for me, that is the human resources. Mm-hmm. Because human resources have to be trained adequately so that they can master the settlement where they live. We are trained to go to universities, to have big degrees, but at the local level, we are not even able to transform what we grow as food, for example, in agriculture. Mm-hmm. So vocational training is very important for us to be able to transform what we produce locally.
You've touched on agriculture, you touched on vocational training. I know the report by IMF looking at 2024 last quarter and projects into 2025, 2026 did mention that one of the areas that we can look into for economic diversification is human capital development. So you mentioned agriculture, you mentioned vocational skills. Is there a particular area or sector that you believe Mali would benefit from if they diversify into?
Agriculture, definitely, agriculture. Mali, with the Niger River, was supposed to feed the whole Africa. We are not even feeding Mali. Vocational, and we have that river that crosses Mali and goes to Senegal. So we have to be able to do fishing. We have to be able to do agriculture, to feed Mali. And also we have the first, or maybe it is between us and Nigeria, the first to have the highest capital with cattle and sheep in Africa. So what we do, we export the whole thing, living stock, without killing them, having value chain where we can put people to work, because we don't have sufficient training, on being able to cut in a nice way, to put packaging, to store it, to refrigerate it, and to sell it. So we bring the whole thing on feet in Senegal, where they have their knowledge. So for me, vocational training on the value chain of agriculture is very important. And you have artisanal mining. Mali has the largest stock of gold in Africa. So to be able to work on the value chain of gold exploitation and raffinery is very important. So we don't all have to go to the university having big degrees like me and being able to talk and not even being able to transform, to do any transformation and create wealth on the value chain. And what is also very important is to redistribute that resources that we have on the value chain to the population and to the base of the population. Because if there is no wealth redistribution, then we will go on all those social movements that we are having, and that will lead to different coup d'etat that we are having. So it is very important.
Thank you for that. Now let's go on to women entrepreneurship. So how do you think women entrepreneurship, within Malian context or in your own experience as former ambassador and in different capacities, help with economic diversification? And what programs and policies in your experience has worked to promote that?
Well, women in entrepreneurship, women are entrepreneurs. As I said, when you take at the family level, women are already entrepreneurs because they have to organize the work within the family, to be. So women for me are already entrepreneurs. I have an example that I like to share when I talk about women in entrepreneurship. I was working on handcraft, and we were doing leather and on a rural area. And those women were doing very good leather in a village 600 kilometers from Bamako, and we were gaining a lot of money. But I had to increase the stock. So I went to see them and I said, okay, we are doing very well, and now you have to work more and increase the stock so that we can meet larger market. They told me, okay, ma'am, we will give you the answer tomorrow. And I came back the morning after. They told me, yes, we really want to increase the stock, but we cannot. So I was so shocked because I said, I can increase the money I give you and things like that. They said, no, we cannot, because the time we will take to increase that level of production will be at the detriment of the work we do to cook, to take care of our children, and to take care of our husbands. And we value more our social role than what you are proposing us. So I think women in entrepreneurship also have to be contextualized. It depends on what people value most. What people value most, what makes them happy. So those women said they were not happy by increasing that leather, by having more money, because money was not the value on that setting. So you see the mind shift you should have when you talk about community, about women role, about leadership. It is all a matter of context and culture. And that is something, what can be leadership here in Ottawa or Toronto might not be leadership in Mali, in a village in Mali. For example, when I receive all those a manual on gender when I was working with a woman, they sent us the manual for equality between men and women. And we had to go in the rural area to train the women to be leader. And while doing that training, I found out that there was a big problem, there was an issue. And that's why when I studied business in the States, I wanted to do business. But then I added sociology because I wanted to understand the social context of my country and why we were not developing. So we received those manuals on gender issue and thing, and we went to the training, and I was with this white woman that came as expert from outside. Mm-hmm. We went together and we started doing the meeting with men and women, and men sat in front, and the women behind. She said, no, women, come in front also. Mm-hmm. You have to come in front because we are all equal here. I told her, no. They know why they sit behind. Let them sit behind, because if they come to sit in front, mm-hmm. This is not how they organize their meeting, usually in the social context. So that you will bring conflict right away at the beginning of your meeting, and you will not have success in that in that project. So I said, let them where they are, and then let us start. And we started. So when we started, the men were answering the questions, the women were not talking. Mm-hmm. They were behind and they were not talking. And she said, she picked a woman behind and she told her to talk. The woman didn't speak. And then once we finished the meeting, we asked many questions. That was the first day. And they said they will come back to us tomorrow. And the men said, because the night bring advices. The night bring advices. What does mean? That means that when they will go to the household, mm-hmm. they will talk to their wife. And this is where the wife will give them the answer. And at the morning, they will come with the answer of the wife. So women don't have to take the stand in front, but it is a decision that will come in the morning, because then the woman will monitor the answer the men gave, and if it doesn't fit them, then you are dead when you come back home. So the space of power and the space of expression doesn't have to be, all revealed. So that you have to understand the society, the community. That's why I was saying we have 150 languages, 150 culture. You cannot take them all the same. So you really have to understand the context.
Yes, but I'm still going to ask you this question, even though it may sound a little abstract and out of context. What do you think it would take for us to shift that social narrative from not allowing women to take on that leadership role, and which will transition them to entrepreneurship? Like, what do we actually have to do? I know there are so many factors, colonization, so many ways of thinking that we have to reposition in our minds to unlearn certain things, to relearn certain things. But in your experience from the local context, what do you think it would take to help these women rethink their position in society and to shift from that social status?
Well, they have a status and they have power. That's what I said, because they influence the decision from where they are. So when I come now to my case, when I went on politics, and I had those male politicians around the table. I was advisor of the president. Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. So when we had to go on political issue, I was around the table with them, and most of the time I was the only woman. Why? I was the only woman. Because I had my computer. And those guys didn't know how to use a computer.
Okay.
So they needed me to be able to write what they say and to have my computer and beside of my status. So I had something more that they didn't have. They couldn't send an email, they couldn't write on computer. And since I had the computer and I was the one writing, so on the final decision, I was putting what I want to put on that final decision. So that's why I said, you have to be where you have a pen. And because with a pen, you can change a paragraph, a single phrase on a statement that will come out. So that what does mean? It is a trajectory. So that means you have to be trained, you have to be engaged, you have to have a political position that fit for the world, but it all come from understanding your community, where you come from, and you don't have to be forced to do things to fit in. Because what happened to us African women and African guys and major politicians from Africa, we do as if we have to be westernized to fit in. If we don't do that, if we don't say this way, if we don't do it this way, then we are rejected. But we have to be ourselves. We have to understand that what we bring in the table have to be what is from the villages to Affaires Mondiales here. Because first of all, you have to be able to read it, to understand it, to assume it, not to be ashamed of, and to bring that reality on the table. Most of the time when you, like as political leaders or diplomats, so we say, everything is fine in my country, because everybody will be ashamed to say, this is not working, this is not working. But if you don't touch the problem, how do you want to solve it? So we don't have to be ashamed. This is who we are. This is what we are. We have to show it to the world, and we have to have sincere dialogue on those issues. If some people want to help, they will help. If they don't want to help, that's fine too.
Thank you. We will identify the nation gaps and we'll take up our places to influence change. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So last question, and I'll let the audience ask some questions too. Given the global uncertainty and situation in the Sahel region,
Giving?
The global uncertainty
Okay.
and situation in the Sahel region, how can economic diversification serve as a tool for building long-term resilience for Mali or the broader African region that you are within? And what does inclusive economic diversification look like in practice within the region?
Well, what you have to understand that our economy is already diversified. It is the partners that when they come to us, they just want to do mining. Because they do mining in such a condition that they cannot do that in their own countries because of the reglementation, a lot of restrictions. So they just choose what they want to deal with. But for me, a problem is an opportunity. If that is so, and as I said, human resources and vocational training, if we have that vocational training, we ourselves how to tackle those diversified sectors that we have to bring innovation, research and development, work with the universities as they do it here, so that we can upgrade our product. And besides, what is also important, we have a local market. When you see all we import from China, from Europe, and we don't produce it in our country, though we have raw material, so that is, we are giving our money to some other people instead of, keeping that money within our country and redistribute it to the base. So that is why, for me, the first thing for the whole Africa is human resource training to be able to transform those raw material and create a value chain. When we create job, create wealth, and redistribute that wealth.
Thank you very much. It's been such a pleasure. I will now invite questions from the audience.
Yeah, Your Excellency, good morning today, and it's good to have you here today. My question is, most importantly, the last question that has been asked in relation to the, economic diversification. Looking at you coming from, West Africa, and then I know there has been effort, most especially Ghana hosting the Africa Continental Trade Areas Secretariat, and I also know that there are a lot of issues around having economic integration and economic cooperation in West African countries, which ECOWAS also had made it a priority to realize that economic integration for most of the West African countries. However, I know there are huge challenges when it comes to issues of climate change affecting border control. Also, there are issues around insurgency, both from Chad, Niger, Nigeria, Mali, and Cameroon. There has been that regional tension with the recent insurgency in different, such as ISWA, Boko Haram, and recently Lakurawa in Niger Republic that has just been, recently discovered. Coupled with also disruption of governance when it comes to coup, open coup in certain countries where democratically elected presidents, you may find out that, there are issues, also tension around there. So what can you say about the possible way out for that economic integration and diversification, despite these challenges that I have just mentioned? What do you think is a way forward for West African countries to overcome these economic challenges? Thank you.
Yes, the first thing, the challenge we have is we are small countries. The fracturation of those countries have been set in such a way that it is difficult for integration. For example, in Mali, we speak French. We have a border of Ghana, they speak English. And then you have another border where they speak French, and then you have another border where they speak English. It has been done in such a way that we don't integrate, and that is the heritage we have from colonization. And the way English people work, which is very pragmatic, and they take it from, again, that colonization is different from the way French countries work, which is very theoretical. That is why Nigeria is going very far, and when Nigerian people come in Canada or are in the States, they go very fast. It is different from the people that come from the French, old French colonies. So people say, okay, now we have to go forward, but we have stigma. We have stigma, and you cannot cure a wound like that. You have to recognize it. You have to recognize it that there is stigma, but from there, what do we do? But you have to recognize the stigma. And so why divide it that way? It is very difficult to integrate. And as I said, the realities are not the same. So the integration models that are put on all those documents from AU are very superficial and artificial and doesn't fit our realities. Because most of the time, it is technicians coming from AU or other countries. They said, okay, this is what we did in Europe. They write it and they send it to AU and said, you have to do it. So they just copy it, copy, paste, and they change AU and they put Africa. But the reality are different. And most of the time, you have to see that those texts, when they are elaborate by European or any kind of expert, it comes with the idea of open your border so that we can come and do business. But it is not how open your border and how we can do business with you, and you can bring your stuff to us and we can bring our stuff to you. When I came here, I started to work on some product where we have comparative advantage and bring it to Canada. So I talked to Affaires Mondiales, which is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I said, this is what I am doing and I want to do. They said, yes, Fatima, it is very good, but we don't have any system or any framework for you to bring your stuff here. But we have framework to bring our stuff outside and to the world. You understand? So when we have those African free trade, we have to read it in such a way, what do we gain it, or what do we gain on it? Because in that Africa free trade agreement, it is one law for everybody. And we are not prepared internally to open our borders. First of all, within Africa, we are not all at the same level. Egypt is different from Mali. Morocco is different from Senegal. We are not all at the same economic level. So even within Africa, some countries we gain more than others. That is first thing. Secondly, if you have one law that fits all, that means if you don't succeed on it, then the people that will come from outside, they will eat you all one at once. Because it is one, I don't know if you understand. Because this is one law that for all the countries. So they will come, they will penetrate the market because of that law. But you cannot penetrate their market because they don't have any system for you in their market. So your market will become the market when they will come because you don't have any human resources to transform, to develop economy within, to gain in your own market. But they have everything. They have the capital, they have the human resources, they have the technology, they have everything. So they will just come, buy that law, settle, and do what they have to do. So you will just be a worker for them, an employee. So this is the trap where we have to be very careful within those laws. And this is what we saw in Mali. Beside all those colonization things, we said we have to read all those things to understand what is on it. And when you see, for example, AU or all the structure you talk about, we don't fund them. The money for them to work come from outside. It is not like African countries are paying, all those structures or the personnel that is there. It is AU, it is EU, it is individual Germany, and so the decisions are not our decision. It is how they want it to be. So we have to free ourselves for those domination in our regional setting and speak from ourselves. And as I said, what do we have at the grassroots level? How do we read it? How do we assume it? And how do we bring that in the text? I don't say that we don't have to work with others. We have to work with others. And you have some people, when they understand all that, they are very honest. And they want to work with us. But it is that honesty that we are asking. Yes. I don't know if it is clear enough. Because, as you know, I come from a French background, so I don't know if it is. Yes.
Too bad I can't speak French to interpret it for you. Any more questions, please? So, any last words? I know you are awesome with working with women, and you would have a lot more to say within that context. Anything else you would like to share before we go?
Yeah, well, I think Africa is the continent to be, and Africa is ready to work with everybody. And as a diplomat, it was very difficult. It is very difficult for African diplomats to bring African subject on the table. But when you see how the world is going now, and when you see what happened to Canada, to fight for its sovereignty, it is the same fight that we are conducting in Africa. And we are looking for that sovereignty. And when we talk about sovereignty, it is as if we don't have to reivindicate it. It is true that coup d'etat are not good. Nobody wants any coup d'etat. But when you reach that level of institutional being, it means that there have been so much ruptures that lead to the coup d'etat. And my fear now is if the civil fail, the soldiers fail, then the narrative that is going on now with Boko Haram, with the religious extremism, is why a Muslim leader should not be president, so that we can have an Islamic state to be able to lead, because you civils, you fail, the military fail, so why we don't try Islamic institution? And that is a big danger. That is a big danger. And with the coup, we had a lot of restriction, partnership clause, restriction, and I think it is very counterproductive, because it deepens the poverty in such a way that all those young people are joining extremist and religious groups, and they are preparing themselves to come against the states. And then, so that all those regions, they want to put an Islamic state, and I think that will be it. That will be the end. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for listening and participating, and thank you so much, Your Excellency. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invitation.